everyone for tuning in, and then obviously for anyone that's going to be listening to this sort of recording. It's I think, a pretty auspicious day today. Today's the 1 year anniversary of New Order. This date last year, we had our token generation event and sort of brought this project live. And, I guess first and foremost, we probably would like to thank the community for basically supporting us and our activities and all the pursuits, right? In establishing New Order, right? So New Order wasn't established on this date last year, but it actually, in actuality, kind of requires like a year of building a foundation, right? This is a DAO, and we are still sort of like evolving and building a foundation as a DAO. But I think what's really, really exciting is that we have built a foundation as a venture platform. And that's not something that's easy to do. And frankly speaking, without the support of the community and the involvement of the community, this venture DAO, known as New Order, wouldn't be possible. So we're very, very grateful for the insights, the inputs, a lot of great suggestions. And then obviously, we're very open to feedback, constructive criticism, and all incorporated, like, I think, in how we sort of move forward. So thanks very much to everybody out there. I don't think we've been aspiring for, a DAO with, like, let's say like tens of thousands of people. I think we're probably, I don't know if that would be optimal in terms of what we're trying to achieve with this DAO, which is really to sort of build this, like, this sort of premium project generator, that is actually a good actor in the space, right? So like a long actor that's going to be building like projects that have like real impact, right? And not necessarily financial sort of value, that's always being created. We're very, very happy with where we're at. I'm just going to give a quick rundown on just some of the things that we've been able to establish this year that I think are really, really notable. Starting with Redacted. So Redacted, launched a week after New Order, and I think is a really good example of like sort of the resourcefulness of, like, our core team, and having sort of like effectively launched like two projects at the same time. And so New Order launched 1 week after New Order, raised 73 million. A fact that isn't sort of like out there, quite enough, but like was quite a splashy sort of entrance. And Redacted to this day like continues to sort of excel. It has started its rollout of V2, which will start the launch of Hidden Hand and Pyrex. Hidden Hand, in fact, has recently hit an all-time high in bribe volume, which is like basically more than 700,000 in USD. So that's very, very significant. And Pyrex actually has over 6 million in CVX deposits. So Redacted is a project that we're very, very proud of. A lot of credit should go to Sammy and the Redacted team. And, we think Redacted is going to be one of those networks that is going to continue to succeed for years to come. There's really not a lot of sort of governance infrastructure and innovations out there that have succeeded the way Redacted has, and we think this is going to be like a multi $1 million network for years to come.
If I could jump in there,
Yeah.
like, it's really remarkable. Like when I've seen that team, like sort of, people are distributed when they come together and even, even working remotely, like those guys they're all like gigabrain chads and they also like ship code like you would believe. So yeah, great team.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and in fact, like, uh, often it's not the case that New Order is, um, creating these like great projects, and sort of, you could say, you know, um, building a foundation for these projects, but often like we're learning from them, which is really like how like a great ecosystem works, right? Where there is like an exchange of like knowledge, know-how, insight, um, and resources and network. So it's been a great sort of relationship. Um, I'll mention H2O, which we launched, this non-pegged stable asset, for the sort of futuristic data economy. Um, we've recently, or H2O has recently launched PSDN Ocean, which is their first liquid staking wrapper for VE Ocean. And that's a project that is progressing slowly, but I think as it's quite a it's a long play, but I think we are very bullish on data as an asset, right? And I think especially in this bear market, right, where liquidity and capital is hard to come by, I think this is especially a good time for um for founders to kind of focus on data, right? And how can we sort of reimagine how data is used, or can be used as an asset, and then also like how can these marketplaces and economies like be sort of um, um, you know be amortized amongst its stakeholders a lot better. So
It
um,
also plays really nicely with like this sort of AI narrative that's forming, right? There's a lot of interest and renewed excitement around AI with the release of these sort of like open source, image and text generators, and AI works really well with that. I don't know if we're sort of done with H2O, but this Ocean, PSDN Ocean, is, I believe it's only going to be the first of many liquid staking wrappers in their roadmap. I know they haven't really maybe said much lately, but consider this an announcement of an announcement, right? I mean, they're going to be announcing some more of those soon. Yeah.
yeah, cool. And I think we we find ourselves actually like kind of like ahead of the curve on a variety of things. Like, for example, we were building, Y2K before the UST sort of meltdown. And we have been looking at like data DAOs and data unions, ahead of like, all the sort of recent excitement around OpenAI and Chat GBT. So, that's I think always kind of a nice sign where, the team and the community are kind of ahead of the curve. So just moving on, we've established now 2 Basecamp cohorts. I won't run through all of them, all the projects, but there's 14 projects there. They're generally all in some form of like launching. I think there's some really interesting projects. I'll just highlight a few of them. I think Identify is a really interesting project. It was the guys that won ETH Denver. And that's one to keep an eye on. We've also got another 8 projects, in the current cohort of Basecamp. And there's a project called Caviar that I think we're very bullish on, and Kasten as well, which is sort of making traction. We like how we're scaling with Basecamp. And, there's 14 projects between the two Basecamp programs. And if you combine that with the projects that we've been sort of like working on in-house, we're looking at about 20 projects that are in progress or have launched from our venture platform this year. So we're really, really proud of that number. And given that it's a bear market, we have just been, I would say, like pretty laser focused on building and ignoring the noise around what's been happening in the market and token prices and all that type of stuff, knowing that our business actually has like some very clear fundamentals, which is the more we ship, and the more we ship projects that are successful, the bigger our treasury grows. And there isn't like really any sort of like haziness in like where our value comes from. And so because of that, like, we really just think about like, what is the future? How do we build it? And then how do we, put that into our treasury? So, so I'll move on to Y2K, which is another project, I think similar to Redacted, that we think is going to perform very, very well over time. And kind of eager to see how how a bull market sort of values some of these type of projects for us. But Y2K recently launched on Arbitrum, attracted 10 million in TVL in 1 week, and has generated over 380,000 in fees in just 3 weeks. And so we're very bullish on, I think, kind of almost establishing a new sort of paradigm of DeFi that is actually focused on, like Web3 financial instruments and, some of the embedded risks that are involved there that are like native to crypto. And so Y2K, I think, is just like a front runner in that sort of thesis of DeFi. And, we're really, really proud of Y2K and that team. In particular, CryptWalk, who kind of graduated out of our team and has really driven this project in a way where we're super, super confident and proud of that team. So, a definite shout out to Y2K. And then, I think lastly is VE Neo, right? I think establishing VE Neo, I think it was important for us. I think is a way for us to reward, I think, the type of token holders that really understand what we're trying to do, which is, kind of create a new venture paradigm and give us the breathing room to kind of like build value and in return, like we want to deliver that value to those holders. So VE Nuo, over 100 million Nuo locked and growing. And so that's over 50% of circulating supply. We're super, super grateful to have that type of support. And I think those people are going to be very, very happy over the next couple of years, knowing what's ahead. And let me just talk a little bit about, what's ahead for us in the new year, because I think New Order over this past year, we have just been, basically focused on the work. And there's been a lot of, like sort of fires and smoke and, a lot of, industry's basically been kind of burning, right? So we have just been focused on the work, and it's very clear to our team, given the amount of inbound we've had with projects and layer one projects, like notable layer one projects coming and approaching us, that what we've been doing and building and have been developing as a platform is resonating with the industry. So we're really excited about, basically having the ability to work with a lot of groups and maybe even sort of like create collaborations where we are, maybe packaging a few projects with other layer ones in the future to launch, what we hope is like another 20 to 30 projects next year. And I think there's going to be a lot of interesting opportunities. We will only be building things that we think have conviction. We're not some sort of like shitcoin factory, so to speak. I think there's a number of opportunities that we're going to focus on. Che is going to elaborate actually on what areas we're focusing on. We do have a thesis that we are actually going to be releasing in the coming weeks. So I think that's going to be really exciting. Che will kind of, talk a little bit about that, about kind of what we're going to be, what's going to be driving some of the projects that we think are going to be successful. Maybe I'll end it with, we're also going to be revamping the brand a bit. And I think that's going to be super exciting.
Eden, the question on everyone's lips: when merch?
When merch, right? So when merch is coming soon, I think we should have merch in a month. And I think with the new brand, I think everybody's going to be, I think they're going to be super, super happy. So look out for that. So with that, I'll just end it with another thank you to the community. And Che, why don't you tell us about, I think, what some of the logic is around what we're going to be building around next year, and maybe kind of a sneak peek of this thesis that we're going to be releasing over the next few weeks.
Yeah, sure. I'll just be using Eden's laptop here, just easier. So I think the year of 2023 is expected for us to be, I would say a very long protracted bear market, where we are very well positioned to be able to utilize that time that's on our hands, and then the lack of noise that's available, during a bull market. We are able to drill down on some of the items that we truly believe to be changing the industry as we know it, and improving the user experience and onboarding a lot of various entities and contributors and institutional players in the game. I think one of the first things that we want to start with is introducing, or even considering, the fact of the inexistence of a lot of risk modeling in our industry. I think it's quite prevalent in the traditional financial markets that risk is usually a meme. There's a lot of entities that advertise themselves as very risk averse and prudent in their analysis, but that sometimes isn't the case, and is the reason behind a lot of various nefarious activities and lack of due diligence. In crypto, I think that's even further exacerbated with the various, I would say, lacks of risk models and risk dashboards and prudent investing in general. And we are really on the forefront of developing a lot of those infrastructural, I would say, platforms and use cases for risk to be actually available to, first of all, bet on. I think that's something that we discovered through Y2K, and then risk as a measure of return. And that's something that we will be very soon showing you guys with one of the projects that's in our pipeline, and really drilling down on the idea of having prudent market analysis and risk analysis that's based of not simply the yield to smart contract risk, considering various auditing venues, but actually drilling a lot further into various liquidity layers, and analyzing the like a much more robust system of assessing risk. I think that's one of the first things that we would like to focus to continue our grand vision on the infrastructural layer. Of something that really eyes our interest is sovereign rollups and modularity in general. I think the Cosmos ecosystem has been gaining some steam, I'd say, in the past 6 months or so with the introduction of Atom v2 and a lot of buzz around the various DeFi primitives and non-DeFi primitives that are being built on Cosmos. But the whole concept of modularity and the introduction of various modular layers into the blockchain ecosystem, and not simply focusing on one monolithic layer that's taking on the drain of the various requirements that projects have. By definition, ETH as a modular layer or any other modular layer, the users are either underpaying or overpaying for the security of the network. And we think that there is space for various levels of security required for the entities or ideas that are introduced to our industry. And there needs to be a layer that's able to facilitate that distinction between the levels of risks required. So that's something that we are very, very interested in and already capitalizing on. Those are around Cosmos and Celestia ecosystem. That's another one of our deep interest, and that we are already working on, and we'll be sharing a lot of information in the coming months and weeks. Another point is the importance of the data economy. I think we already established that with H2O, but we wanted to even further drill down on it with the likes of Wind, which is already released to the public, but generally speaking, commercializing user data and retrieving that data that the user is providing and actually bringing back the value to them, instead of getting that value lost in various intermediaries, and the user themselves who's actually owning and generating that data getting cents on the dollar. A lot of that will be also shown to you guys with the various ideas that we have through our incubator and through our incubation pipeline. There's a lot of value in data, and we do believe that data is indeed the new oil, and that a lot of efforts in our industry, in general in the IT industry, and I think IT is the future, and behind it is data, and data is what drives that innovation. I think lastly, what we really are interested in is providing DAOs with the ability to operate efficiently, and not looking at the decentralized space as a detriment to operational efficiency, as actually looking at that layer of decentralized operations as an opportunity and as a means of success, as opposed to as a means of detriment. So one of the projects that's actually probably the soonest of all of the ones that we've mentioned is going to be announced, which is going to capitalize on that thesis of servicing a lot of the financialized and non-financialized DAOs that are operating on very simplistic terms and measures, and they're operating, including very, very smart contributors that are just unable to efficiently portray their thoughts and communicate with the broad community and actually execute on their ideas. So I think that's another big one. But I think I've said a lot, and I think a lot of this will be further drilled down in our thesis that we're going to be releasing. So stay tuned for that. And on that note, I'll pass it to Marek with his remarks.
Thanks, Jay. Cool. That's awesome. So yeah, from my end, just maybe a couple updates on things that are going on. As Jay mentioned, and probably Ian mentioned as well, we've been really focused on sort of ramping up the let's say incubation funnel, incubation pipeline, right? I don't know what the exact count is off the top of my head, but it's like, I think it's northwards of pretty much like 5 projects we're doing at a time now. new order, or at least like in various stages, right? So super excited about that. I think, you know, since we've been sort of focused on like, let's call it like efficiency, those operational efficiencies in terms of parallelism. You know, we had this sub-DAO initiative. I can't remember how many months it's been now, but it feels like it's been like at least, you know, more than half a year, right? You know, I think we want to, well, not what we want, what we are doing, right, is we are rebooting the sub-DAO initiative with a series of sub-DAO meetings. I'm actually just going to drop the schedule in, should have been dropped in the community call questions channel, right? So if you just want to take a quick peek over there, it's going to be the initial meetings for the sub-DAOs. So technical engineering, it's sort of been the one that, you know, we have been having meetings more data science focused. I see some of our, you know, longtime contributors in the audience here today. So first meeting of that is going to be December 14th of 2 p.m. GMT, which is London time. So it's going to be morning in North America, evening in Asia. Treasury and governance is going to happen exactly 1 week later, same time. Sub-DAO meeting. Venture meeting is going to be January 9th. This one's actually going to be on Eastern time, so it's going to be a little bit later in the day for the rest of us. So it's 1 p.m. Eastern time, North America time. And then lastly, but not leastly, community and marketing. Sub-DAO is going to meet January 11th. So this is really open to, as I understand it, anyone in the community that has joined a sub-DAO that's gone through the intake. I mean, Contento, I think you want to say something about all that stuff, right?
Yeah, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to host in the new order work server. I'll actually drop the invite now. And basically it's token gated, but the only condition is that you have one locked Nuo. So if you have one locked Nuo, you can join
one or more.
Yeah, one or more. Yeah. So we'll be hosting those there. And yeah, continuing, I guess, contribution and coordinating with contributors there. So I dropped the invite in CC questions as well.
Okay, thanks, Contento. That's brilliant. And then, yeah, I think what we're going to be doing is like, you know, as a DAO, right, establishing all these processes in like sort of, I would say, a bottom up manner, right? I think, you know, some of us are going to try to make like all of the sub-DAO meetings just to sort of like, let's say, you know, be that conduit for like learnings and stuff. Like if, you know, one sub-DAO found a really clever way to deal with, let's say, something, right? Like that knowledge should be shared amongst us, right? And then I am going to personally make an effort to sort of push people to, you know, submit summaries, like minutes essentially of those meetings, like the major topics covered and any decisions that were made to Commonwealth to kind of, I would say, revitalize a lot of the discussions that are going on Commonwealth. And then that gives people a chance that, you know, couldn't make the meetings for whatever reason, you know, a chance to also comment and reflect on that stuff. So like, I think that that's probably the next major development, right? And then alongside of that, you know, I haven't been dragging my ass, so to speak, right? But I mean, you know, there's just been a tremendous amount of work to do, especially with respect to sort of like the resilience, working on the resilience of our technological stack, including, you know, infrastructure and so forth. But you know, I think that, you know, we've been around for like a year now, right? I think we can definitely move to the next stage of decentralization, right? Everybody in terms of our Git book roadmap there, right? So basically the move is going to be to make it so that you know, anyone can submit a snapshot vote result as a Gnosis safe action, right? And the multi-sig that currently has, you know, so far for a year been faithfully executing, you know, the will of the token holders when a snapshot vote passes, you know, it'll sort of move into more of a veto role in case, just to make sure that, you know, let's say a, you know, for some reason a snapshot passes that's against the Constitution that the DAO voted on, you know, some time ago now, you know, like I you know, that'd be sort of grounds for a veto, right? And yeah, so like that's in the cards as well. We'll probably discuss that among other things in the technical sub DAO meeting. I guess, you know, everybody's always like, you know, when airdrop, when Y2K airdrop, instead of like when decentralization roadmap stage 2, right? So like, you know, I've, you know, more people need to keep me and the rest, I guess the rest of the technical sub DAO folks kind of accountable there. So yeah, please join our meeting and remind us about the decentralization is important. So those are, I think, two of the main things I wanted to talk about. The last thing I want to talk about that's actually really exciting is we're going to be running a boot camp. I guess the working title is Nuo Boot Camp. I think maybe we'll find something more clever than that. But it's going to be a 6-week program running on the weekends. Starting in January, I think like mid to late January. Yeah, it's going to run for 6 weeks. The way I see it, like, I mean, it's, you know, we're sort of, you know, working on it collaboratively within the sub DAOs. You know, it's there's probably going to be a sort of like a general track that's more maybe appropriate for everyone. And then there's also going to be like a technical track. So like, because I'm like a big nerd, I encourage everyone to also join the technical track. You know, maybe you know, you don't get everything out of it, but at least you'll probably get, if for the people that are joining those sessions, they'll at least get a taste of some of the you know, the actual like nitty-gritty blockchain, you know, considerations, right? And we'll try to make everything as accessible as possible. So yeah, I mean, comparable boot camps, like, you know, charge like hundreds of dollars. Like, we're going to be doing this for free. I think the venture sub DAO is going to help sort of like vet candidates. Like, there's going to be, I think, a fairly easy application process, right? I guess maybe the goal of which would be to just keep out bots, or I don't know, whatever. Like, so like, yeah, we're gonna have like a very you know, I think very straightforward intake process for that. And so like, yeah, stay tuned for news. I think we're going to start announcing it, announcing more details, probably very early in the new year. But like, yeah, so stay tuned. That's coming. Oh yeah. So people ask, like, you know, what's this boot camp going to do? What's the point of the boot camp? It's really to kind of like prepare, you know, people that are, you know, maybe DeFi users or blockchain Web3 users, you know, or, you know, maybe they're already kind of, you know, working with projects, but this is really to kind of give people the background and, you know, cover like a lot of topics around, you know, actually working in Web3 and DAOs. And in a lot of cases, you know, because of the way that New Order is sort of oriented towards incubation, you know, the hope is that this sort of you know, not overview, but like we're getting in depth into many of these topics, right? But like to give people like the right background to either, you know, start contributing to a DAO, right? Like kind of more let's say professionally, or more at a more, you know, significant way than they normally would, or to start incubating a project themselves, right? To give them the background to say, okay, well, here's what I need to get together to actually, you know, get a project going and rolling and you know, funded and you know, all this stuff, or you know, fair launch, or whatever that looks like for you, right? So yeah, that's really the goal of the boot camp. You know, it's just really, you know, kind of like level up, let's say founders and DAO contributors, right? So that's going to be our goal. Anyway, Phil, I've ranted and rambled a long time. Contentu, is there anything you wanted to add to any of that stuff?
No, I think you got it.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Merrick. So yeah, so look, I mean, I think there's a ton of like really exciting stuff that's going to happen next year, things that we're working on. I think like sort of very progressive thinking in terms of like technology and markets. And then in the short term, I mean, I think there's very, you know, some very concrete things, you know, that I think would be exciting for the community. IVX, Wind are, you know, two projects that I think to keep an eye out for. We've got a new brand that will be launching, you know, after the new year. We have the thesis that will be released before the new year. And then, you know, probably the most important thing of all, I'm told, the merch, right? The merch, I think we can expect just after the new year as well. So with that, I just want to once again just say thanks to everybody that's helped us over the course of the year. And of course, your support moving forward is super appreciated. So thanks everybody.
Okay, thanks everyone for joining us. Like, you know, let's make the second year of New Order, like, you know, it's going to be bigger and better than the first year, right? Like, and we've built up a tremendous amount of momentum, and you know, I look forward to the next year.
Let's fucking go.
Let's
Let's
go.
go.
All right.
Thanks,
Peace.
everyone.
Thanks all.